This is the picture they insisted we would never witness. For 10 years, Donald Trump has been the untouchable Don. Impeachment slid right past him. Indictments lifted his polling numbers. Civil verdicts were postponed, challenged, and bonded away. He appeared to exist in a world where accountability applied only to others. But this morning, Saturday, January 24th, 2026, that armor finally dissolved. Breaking developments from New York City have thrown the American presidency into total turmoil. A justice of the New York State Supreme Court has just signed an order demanding the immediate enforcement of judgment against the Trump Organization. This is not a caution. This is not a threat. This is a confiscation mandate. At this very moment, the New York City Sheriff's Office, the agency tasked with carrying out civil rulings, is reportedly gearing up to deliver foreclosure notices to some of the most recognizable properties in the Trump empire. We are talking about 40 Wall Street. We are talking about the commercial sections of Trump Tower. We are possibly talking about the private jet. Why now? Why while he occupies the Oval Office? Because the financial chain reaction we discussed yesterday, the Japanese bond market collapse, has taken its first prominent casualty, the bonding firm that guaranteed Trump's enormous civil fraud appeal. The liquidity shock in Tokyo triggered a margin call in New York. The insurer withdrew the bond. Trump, drained of cash by the campaign and ongoing legal battles, was unable to replace it within the court's 24-hour emergency deadline. The stay has been removed. The shield has fallen. For the first time in U.S. history, a sitting president is confronting the active dismantling of his personal business empire by a hostile state authority. The Secret Service is now locked in a standoff with local law enforcement over access to these properties. White House counsel is urgently pleading for Supreme Court intervention, and the president is reportedly furious, threatening to federalize the National Guard to protect his assets. We are witnessing the clash of capitalism, the Constitution, and catastrophe. In this special report, we will dissect exactly how this unfolded. We will examine which assets are at risk. We will explain why the shock from Japan made this unavoidable. And we will tackle the question, can New York State truly evict the President of the United States from his own tower? Hold tight. History is unfolding in real time. To understand why the sheriff is moving today, we must grasp the financial machinery that broke down overnight. Recall the $464 million civil fraud judgment from 2024, the one brought by Letitia James. Trump appealed. To prevent asset seizures during the appeal, he had to post a bond. A sketchy company stepped in, vouched for him, and backed the guarantee. For 2 years, that bond stood. It was the barrier holding back the flood. But yesterday, the global financial system convulsed. The Japanese bond market collapsed. The yen carry trade unraveled. Trillions in liquidity vanished from the world banking system in mere hours. According to leaked reports from the Wall Street Journal, the reinsurance group backing Trump's appeal bond was deeply entangled in Japanese commercial debt. When Tokyo imploded, their balance sheet disintegrated late Friday night. Regulators or internal risk officers forced a de-risking move. They notified the New York court that they could no longer secure Trump's judgment. They canceled the bond. Normally, a defendant gets 30 days to secure replacement coverage, but this is New York. This is Letitia James, and this is a judge with zero patience left. The court ruled that given the fragile state of the defendant's finances and the instability of global markets, no extension would be granted. The reasoning was ruthless. If the president is genuinely worth billions, he can write a check. If he cannot, then the assets must be locked down immediately before they lose value in a collapsing market. The order was signed at 9 a.m., immediate seizure. Donald Trump, the President of the United States, effectively received a margin call on his life's work, and he failed to meet it. So, what does Letitia James target? She does not want the golf courses. They are hard to sell, hemorrhage cash, and are tangled in legal issues. She wants revenue. She wants the showcase assets. Target 1, 40 Wall Street, the Trump Building. This is the crown jewel on the liquidation list, a towering skyscraper in the heart of the financial district. But here's the twist. Trump does not own the land. He owns the ground lease. Ground leases are complicated. If you default on debts or judgments, the lease can be terminated or transferred. taking 40 Wall Street strikes at Trump's core, his identity as a New York tycoon. It is valuable, it is comparatively liquid, and it is symbolic. Target 2, Trump Tower, commercial and retail. Not the penthouse yet, the lower levels, the Gucci boutique, the atrium, the office floors where the sheriff can install a receiver. This is a court-appointed executive who assumes control of the property. Picture this, a bureaucrat appointed by a Democratic attorney general walking into Trump Tower, dismissing Trump organization management and rerouting all tenant rent checks directly to New York State. The president would still technically own it, but he would lose command. He would lose the cash flow. He would become a renter in his own building. Target 3, the Seven Springs estate. This is the Westchester property central to the fraud case. Inflated appraisals. It is low-hanging fruit. It is not his residence. It is an investment holding. Seizing it is straightforward. Target 4, the bank accounts. This is the most immediate danger. The sheriff can issue levies to every bank in New York, JP Morgan, Wells Fargo, and others. Any account bearing the Trump Organization name gets frozen. Funds are siphoned off to satisfy the judgment. If this happens during a Monday payroll cycle, Trump Organization employees do not get paid. Housekeepers, doormen, executives, paychecks bounce. That is how you destroy a company in a single day. This is where a financial crisis morphs into a constitutional crisis. Trump Tower is not merely an office complex. It is the private residence of the President of the United States. It is a fortress. The Secret Service controls the perimeter. They manage the elevators. They secure the airspace. The New York City Sheriff is a law enforcement officer. He holds a court order instructing him to enter and inventory assets. So what happens when the sheriff approaches the revolving doors on Fifth Avenue? The scenario unfolds. The sheriff advances. A Secret Service agent blocks the path. Sir, you may not enter. This is a restricted zone safeguarding the National Command Authority. The sheriff responds, I have a warrant to seize this property. The agent replies, federal authority overrides state authority. Access denied for security reasons. This is a standoff. Weapons are present. Tempers are high. The Attorney General anticipates this. That is why commercial properties are likely the first targets. You don't need to enter the penthouse to seize the bank accounts of the LLC that owns it. But the optics, imagine footage of New York officials slapping seizure stickers onto the windows of the Gucci store in the lobby of the president's residence. It is a public humiliation, and it is meant to provoke. If Trump orders the Secret Service to physically obstruct the execution of a lawful civil order, he enters obstruction of justice territory. But Trump will argue they are attempting to bankrupt the president to cripple his governance. This is a coup by alternate means. White House sources describe the atmosphere as radioactive. Remember, Trump equates his net worth with his identity. He sees his buildings as his offspring. To him, this is not a legal matter. It is a personal assault. He is reportedly calling his new attorney general, whoever replaced the previous one in recent purges, demanding that the DOJ intervene. He wants an emergency federal injunction, claiming that a sitting president is immune from civil asset seizure. This is untested legal ground. The Supreme Court ruled in Clinton versus Jones that a president can be sued civilly. But can he be evicted? Can his business be dismantled while he governs? The argument will center on distraction. Your Honor, the president cannot negotiate the Greenland Treaty or manage the Japan crisis while worrying about his furniture being auctioned online. This imposes an undue burden on the executive branch. It is the unitary executive theory pushed to its financial extreme. He contends that his wallet and the national treasury are functionally intertwined because his focus is a national asset. But the Japan crisis weakens this claim. Americans are watching their retirement accounts shrink. They are feeling inflation. If the president demands everything stop to save his golf course, the optics are catastrophic. This ties back to the devastating poll numbers. If he wields presidential power to protect his fortune while the nation struggles, he permanently forfeits the populist image. Typically, when a billionaire faces a liquidity crunch, he makes a call. A Saudi prince, a Wall Street ally, a hedge fund. Lend me $500 million for 6 months. But today is Saturday, January 24th, 2026. The markets are fractured. Japanese banks are pulling capital home. American banks fear regulatory backlash and collapsing bond markets. The Saudi option may be gone due to volatile oil prices and recession fears. Donald Trump is toxic collateral. Who wants to lend $500 million to a president battling the courts, losing assets, and risking impeachment? The risk premium is prohibitive. This is why the immediate seizure order is lethal. The judge knows Trump is illiquid. The judge knows the Japan shock froze credit. They struck at peak vulnerability. It is a coordinated financial decapitation. How does this resonate in Peoria among the MAGA base? They see theft. They see communism. They believe his buildings are being stolen. Expect protests outside Trump Tower. Expect donations to surge. Though $464 million is hard to raise in $50 increments. This reinforces the narrative that the system seeks to destroy him. It fuels a martyrdom story that is deeply powerful. Independents are the danger zone. Americans admire winners. Wealth carries psychological weight. Trump's appeal included, I'm rich. I can't be bought. If he is broke, if his towers are seized, if he is viewed as a deadbeat, the image of competence collapses. He cannot manage his own bond. How can he manage the economy? Coupled with dismal polls and the Japan crash, it paints a picture of an unraveling presidency. Donors, the major backers of 2024, are gone. They see the seizure as the final straw. They don't want to be tied to a sinking ship. The invisible 2028 primary begins now. DeSantis, Vance, and others are watching, thinking he's finished, financially ruined, and politically radioactive. Time to move on. So how does this conclude? It ends at the Supreme Court. Trump's team will seek an emergency stay from Justice Sotomayor, who oversees the Second Circuit. She will likely deny or refer it to the full court. Then the conservative 6-3 majority must decide. Do they intervene? Do they rule that states cannot seize the assets of a sitting president? If they do, they appear as partisan protectors. The court's legitimacy, already fragile, fractures. If they don't, they allow their party's leader to be humiliated and possibly bankrupted. It is the ultimate test for Roberts, Kavanaugh, and Barrett. And remember, they watch the polls. They may conclude Trump is a liability. They may let New York proceed. We are witnessing the closing chapter of the Trump business saga. Whether he saves the properties or not, the damage is irreversible. The illusion of invincibility is shattered. The billionaire is treated like a foreclosure case. As Sunday approaches, monitor the feeds. Look for the appointment of a receiver. Look for bank levies. Watch for the Truth Social barrage. But above all, watch the Japanese markets when they reopen Sunday night U.S. time. If the crash deepens, Trump's personal crisis will seem trivial. But for one man in the White House watching his name stripped from the monuments of his life, this is the end of the world. Trump's empire is under assault. And this time the walls are truly crumbling. Subscribe, stay alert. History is being written this weekend. Now let's examine what a court-appointed receiver actually does, because this is the precise legal instrument that will dismantle the Trump organization from within. Under New York law, CPLR Article 52 allows a judge to appoint a receiver to manage a judgment debtor's property. This is not oversight. This is replacement. The receiver collects rents. Tenants at 40 Wall Street receive letters, do not pay Trump, pay the receiver. Operations are managed. Cleaning staff, security, employment decisions, all controlled. They can terminate Trump's children if they are on payroll. They can sell the asset. If revenues cannot satisfy the judgment, the receiver lists the building. Imagine the psychological warfare. Eric Trump or Don Jr. arrive at Trump Tower. The receiver, a court-appointed attorney, likely neutral or Democratic, summons them and says, "Turn in your keys." You are dismissed. They cannot call their father. He cannot intervene. The receiver answers solely to the judge. It is a state-sanctioned hostile takeover. The Trump organization becomes a shell existing only to pay Letitia James. Because these are private LLCs, the veil pierced during the fraud trial enables this. The Trump brand becomes a tenant of New York State. Now the next blow. Real estate rests on debt. Trump owes hundreds of millions to lenders like Ladder Capital and Axos Bank. Nearly every commercial loan includes bad boy clauses or judgment defaults. They state that a major civil judgment or asset seizure triggers technical default. Even if monthly payments are current, the seizure order alone can trigger default. Lenders can then demand full repayment. Pay us now. Trump cannot. Banks foreclose, stacking their claims atop the states. It becomes a feeding frenzy. The state wants equity. Banks want principal. The asset is torn apart. In a Japan crash scenario, banks will not be lenient. They need cash. Loans are accelerated. This is the domino effect. One card falls, the entire structure collapses. Push this further. The president is unraveling, distracted, paranoid, spending 18 hours daily with lawyers instead of generals. The global economy melts and he tweets about Letitia James. At what point does the cabinet decide he is compromised? Unable to fulfill his duties due to financial distress. The 25th Amendment. It sounds extreme, but if he orders the military to seize courts or nationalize banks, the cabinet must act. The asset seizure creates a conflict so severe it threatens executive stability. His survival now conflicts with the nation's legal order. This is what the founders feared. This is why emoluments clauses and blind trusts exist. Trump rejected them. Now the reckoning arrives. If the receiver sells 40 Wall Street next week, what is it worth? In 2023, perhaps $200 to $300 million optimistically. In 2026, commercial real estate is battered. Rates spiked from the Japan crisis. Everyone knows it's a forced sale, it's a fire sale. Predators like Blackstone or sovereign funds will offer scraps, $50 million for the lease. The receiver may have to accept. Trump loses the asset and still owes the judgment. Stripped bare, still in debt. This is the savagery of forced liquidation. Claimed billions evaporate into pennies. What do Putin and Xi think? They see weakness, a leader who cannot protect his own home. In authoritarian systems, power is absolute. A local judge seizing an emperor's palace is unthinkable. They see American chaos, democracy devouring itself. It emboldens them. It makes threats hollow. If he cannot stop Letitia James, how does he stop the PLA? Power relies on stability. A sheriff's notice on Trump Tower advertises American disorder worldwide. Recall the Greenland deal discussed yesterday, hinging on corporate investment. CEOs are watching. They see Japan's collapse. They see presidential turmoil. Will they commit billions now or wait? The project may stall because the president is battling creditors. Policy freezes under personal crisis. We face a paralyzed presidency. Now the penthouse, the gold doors, the Louis XIV furniture, his sanctuary, his image. Even if untouched today, the threat looms. Each night he sleeps knowing it could belong to New York. The pressure is crushing. For a man defined by victory and possession, becoming a squatter in his own mind is worse than prison. It explains the fury. It explains the terror. He is fighting for selfhood. So as we conclude this marathon analysis, grasp the stakes. This is not celebrity scandal. It is the American Republic under strain. Can the law reach the highest office? Can the system withstand the backlash? Can the economy endure the fallout? We are in unknown territory. The maps are useless. The sheriff is knocking. The bond market burns. The president is cornered. History shows cornered leaders are dangerous, reckless. Watch what comes next. It will not be a tweet. It will be an order, a riot, or a resignation.